Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr. Thank you so much for tuning in, where we talk about the art and culture of running a record label. And we've been talking for a while now about marketing and promotion. And today I want to talk about, and forgive me for this, forgive me for this clickbaity title, but we're talking about how to start a record label with no money. Why are we talking about that? Because it's actually a really popular question. It's a question I've had a few times, and it's kind of a mentality that a lot of people have, and I totally get it. I actually really respect it, and that's why I want to take it seriously for a second, even though it's kind of like I said, a clickbaity title, how to start a record label with no money. But I want to kind of camp out on this subject a little bit. And even if you are already running a record label, if you've already started your record label, I think there's some practical steps and advice in here that you're going to find helpful that you can implement at any stage in the process. But if you are in this position of wanting to start a record label and you want to do it as inexpensively as possible, that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got a ton of resources. By the way, if you are starting a record label, we have a checklist, and you can get that. It's a checklist on how to start a record label. There's like 31 tips on how to start a record label. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/checklist, and you can download that for free. And that will help you, again, at any stage of running a record label, but certainly if you are thinking and dreaming about starting a record label. Okay. So I get it. Music industry is hard, and playing defense is a good strategy. So wanting to start a record label with no money is honorable. I think that's okay. I think it's a good thing. Having said that, can you start a business with no money? Can a coffee shop open up with just some sort of like Goodwill, used coffee maker they found in the garbage? Or can a landscaping company start up with just a rake and one of those old-fashioned push mowers? I don't know. There's something good with committing to your business and putting your money where your mouth is. So I definitely admire people wanting to come into starting a record label with no money. But at the same time, when you take risks, it tightens your connection with your ambition. Your goals now convert from being just this nice dream into, holy crap, I need to make my money back. So that's kind of this, what we sort of want to acknowledge up front is that I am going to talk about practical steps that we can do to start a record label with no money. But I do want to just say there is some merit in investing in ourselves. And I always think about that coffee shop analogy and the landscaping analogy when it comes to starting a business, because a coffee shop can't just open up with a broken coffee maker. You have to buy those like $10,000, $20,000 cappuccino machines. You couldn't just open up with like a Keurig. And same with a landscaping company. You got to buy a truck and a trailer and a couple good lawnmowers. And so they have this dream, and they really do have to take this leap and buy $20,000 or $30,000 worth of equipment or more just to get going. And so there's something about that holds us accountable when we do invest. When we print 200 copies of vinyl, all of a sudden it lights a fire under us and under the artist to, hey, we got to sell these, we got to make our money back. But there's also merit in wanting to start a label with no money. So playing defensively is smart, and it's fiscally responsible. When you run a label, saying no is a big part of what your job is going to be. So looking to save money at every turn is definitely a legit thing. So starting that mentality from the beginning is a great thing. I had an old boss who used to say that he never buys anything for his company until it cost him money not to have it. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuck with me. And it's basically this idea, like, don't buy something just because you think you should have it. Don't hire someone at your label just because you think that's what real labels do. Go along, by the seat of your pants until, okay, I'm actually losing money because I haven't spent money. And so that's something like, you don't have to buy like fancy accounting software until you've wasting a day or two with all of these spreadsheets and it's not making sense. You don't have to pay for cassette manufacturing until you have so many cassette orders and you're doing them in-house that you are having to cancel orders or people are getting upset that they're late. So that's just, I wanted to kind of acknowledge that both sides of the coin are true, that I do admire, and I do admire people who are wanting to start a record label with no money. And I've talked about it on other episodes where it's like playing defense versus playing offense. Spending money is playing offense. Saving money and not spending money is playing defense. It's very similar to, like, you know, you could score 100 points in a basketball game and still lose that game if you don't have good defense. And so it doesn't matter how much money you're making, you still need to consider saving money. So, and what I like about, and the way I've run my label is we started in the very beginning of recording everything in-house, using recording equipment that I had and other artists have, and recording our records in here, so that, and then we did our own in-house PR so that we could release a record. And let's say we only made $100 on that record. Well, our actual costs were zero. So our profit was 100. So that's just something to consider. But let's talk about starting a record label with no money. Sorry, what a long little intro that was. I did want to say that investing in your label is a great thing to do. It's something that all businesses do. So really think about, why are you saying I want to start a record label with no money? Are you just being cheap? Are you just being scared to commit to your goals and to your dreams? But let's talk about, if you're still watching and listening, and you want to start a record label with no money, I got 4 things for you. Number 1, pool your resources. Do this with other indie artists or even other indie labels. So share like a working space. I just had this, I think it was somebody I saw on Instagram, and I don't know if somebody's already doing this, but how cool would it be? I live in a city that's pretty big, maybe just over 500,000 people. And there's a few record labels in here, and maybe some record labels in town that I don't even know about, but how cool would it be to like share a workspace that, you know, maybe the rent is $2,000 a month, and you've got 4 labels in there who are now paying $500 a month. And maybe you find something even cheaper. You find a little warehouse space for $500 a month, and you got 5 labels in there, all sharing it for $100 a month, you know, and not even to mention the cool community aspect of it. But try to pool your resources, like bring together resources from the artists on your label, who has the best computer, who has recording gear, who has access to a practice space or office space, bulk orders together with other indie artists or other indie labels, if you can do that. For example, I just ran out of cardboard cases for vinyl. So, you know, the shipping boxes, and they're about $1 each, I think, when you order, and you always have to order a minimum of 50 or a minimum of 100. And so, I don't sell a lot of vinyl. We haven't done a lot of vinyl with my labels. So it's, and our releases right now are kind of older. So we certainly don't sell 100 at any one time. And so for me to buy 100 boxes, it would cost me well over $100. Plus I have to have them shipped here. And then I've got to keep them somewhere. But man, if I could team up with another indie artist who just pressed vinyl, or a couple other indie labels, and, you know, we split that order and we each get 25, and we divide that order by 4, that would be really cool. I would love that. And so think about where you can pool resources. That's a great way to save money and to start a record label with no money. Number 2, start with digital-only releases. Cut your teeth on digital releases that you can release for free on Bandcamp, or if you have a little bit of money, you can submit on CD Baby or DistroKid. It's okay to try things on Bandcamp first, build up a following. It all of a sudden becomes a little bit more of a cult following because the records aren't available in physical format, and maybe they're not even available on digital services, streaming services. It's just available on Bandcamp. It's okay to try things out on Bandcamp first and build up that following, and then you eventually grow into making cassettes or pressing vinyl or CDs or that kind of thing. So that's a great way, is to be a digital only release. There's no shame in that. I think that's a really cool way to, what do they call it? Like crawl, walk, run. You know what I mean? The next thing is eliminate what's unnecessary. So if you're looking to save money, then you need to stop spending money. That's what we talked about at the beginning. We may think that we should press vinyl right away, but don't do it. We may think we should hire a designer to make a huge website. But you can use Bandcamp for free first as your main website. Eliminate things that take away your implicit costs, meaning things that take away your time, as well as your explicit costs, things that take away actual money. And so you go bare bones for a little while. Make all your mistakes when you're small. Make $100 mistakes before you make $1,000 mistakes. You know what I mean? Number 4, the final thing here is to wait. I know this is not what you want to hear. So if you've clicked on this and you're thinking, I'm going to start a record label tomorrow and I want to do it with no money, and Scott's got the magic potion to do it, well, this suggestion you're not going to like. But why don't you try holding off for a little while? Hold off for like 6 months or maybe a year. And now I know you've already clicked away. But the reason why I suggest do this is because then you can save up money, and you can also start to make a business plan, be a little bit more strategic. There's this term called the entrepreneurial seizure. Like we get this like seizure when we're so excited about this new idea. Wait for that to calm down a little bit and learn as much as you can. You read books, listen to great podcasts like this one, maybe. Start to court bands. All the while, you can start to pay for things slowly, like build a domain, buy a domain when you can afford it. Buy a certain monthly membership for for MailChimp or Squarespace or something when you can afford it, or start to save up and prepay for your first CD pressing or vinyl pressing. Start a Kickstarter or get like legitimate investors on board if you want. So that's something to consider. And that's the 4th and final tip, is to wait until you can afford it. I hate that. My mom used to say that. I was like, I want to buy a toy. And she's like, well, then maybe cut grass all summer long and then you'll have enough money to buy it. And I hated when she said that, but it's the truth, and I think in the end, you might create a better label. And so think about that, picking a deadline, saying, listen, January 1st, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, or September 1st, or on my birthday, I'm going to launch this label, and then spend all your time saving up money and collecting resources and information to launch your label. So that's my advice on how to start a record label with no money. To pool your resources, start with digital only releases, eliminate what's unnecessary, and to wait. The boring one. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any advice for people who are looking to save money, come join our Facebook group, leave a comment below on YouTube, or leave a review on iTunes, or you can email me at podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. If you are starting a record label, go to our website, otherrecordlabels.com/checklist, where I have a free checklist for you to download.